I'm Andy Parkin, Managing Director of the Multi-Award Winning Speed Screed. I'm here today to talk about Self Levelling Screed. I would say that I don't believe there is a Self Levelling Screed per se. Yes, a self-smoothing, but not a self-levelling. Please don't lay the screed and expect it to level itself. However, the term Self-Levelling Screed is used extensively in the industry, and I will use it here. Self-Levelling Screed is a cement-based smoothing compound supplied generally in 25 kg bags and mixed on site with water or latex for some products. When laying vinyls, ceramic tiles, carpet and other floor coverings, Self-Levelling Screed evens out substrates, leaving a smooth surface to bond to. Self-Levelling Screed and construction types vary. When we talk about Self-Levelling Screed, we need to consider the different types of screed construction. There are three types. Bonded is very relevant to Self-Levelling Screed as it relies on the bond with the substrate. Self-Levelling Screed would be suitable for this type of construction. Unbonded is where you have a membrane in between the substrate and the screed. This type of construction is not something that would be suitable for a self-levelling screed. Floating screed construction is where you have the screed sat on insulation, be it acoustic or thermal insulation. This type of construction is not something that would be suitable for a self-levelling screed. When bonding, I think it's important to highlight the process. When looking at the substrate, it needs to be sound. When we say sound, it needs to be solid. If you have a crumbling, cracking, or other issues, then action needs to be taken before laying the screed. There is no point in laying a self-levelling screed onto something that isn't stable, because it will only result in the screed cracking and or delaminating. Checks should be made to ensure that the substrate is not contaminated. Contamination can be a variety of things: oils, grease, dust, anything that may have gone into the pores of the screed, the capillaries of the screed or the concrete. If there is contamination, it may require some mechanical surface preparation, which may be grinding, scabbling or shot blasting. If there is paint on the substrate, then it will need to be removed before laying the self-levelling screed. The surface needs to be clean and vacuumed if there is dust and dirt on the surface. Before the floor screed is laid, a primer needs to be applied to the substrate to assist in the bonding of the screed to the substrate. Sometimes it can go down without the primer. Always read instructions before laying. Either way, you are going to need some penetration of the surface. It needs to bond, so it may be that you have to grind off the first couple of mil of the matrix to get down to something that's bondable. If the substrate is power floated concrete, then the top of the matrix will need to be removed to get to the more open textured concrete that will allow the primer to penetrate. There are certain products that may go down directly onto power floated concrete, but again, you would have to look at the requirements for each individual product. In general, you would be looking at mechanically altering the surface to allow for better adhesion between the screed and the substrate. Self-levelling thickness. So when we talk about self-levelling thickness, this varies from product to product. However, as a general guideline, the minimum depths are usually 2 to 3 mil. However, there are some products that can go down to feather edge. Maximum depths are around 10 to 15 mil. However, with the addition of bulking aggregates, normally kiln dried sand, some self-levelling screed can go up to 50 mil. Self-levelling screed is normally used to smooth the surface of concrete and screeds when laying thin vinyl or thin floor coverings. Slight imperfections in the substrate will show up all these in these floor coverings, A self-levelling screed will smooth out those slight imperfections. I hope this helps with your self-levelling screed questions. If you would like any further help, please get in touch.